Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast. Monday, hi to Bo Wulf, Zack Berman. A big week ahead. The joint practice with the New England Patriots tomorrow in Foxborough, and then the second preseason game on Thursday. Zack, since you and I last spoke, the Eagles have played a preseason game, had a practice on Sunday. Lots going on. We've talked to Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing a few things here. First off, because you said that on Anthony's show today since we last spoke. You and I have spoken. We just haven't spoken on the show.
That's
I want to
true.
make that clear. It's not like I'm asking you what you thought of the game for the first time that occurred. But I'm doing.
Yeah, we're not giving each other the silent treatment at practice.
Yes. I'm pumped. Tomorrow is the biggest day of the summer for the Eagles. That's not a stretch to say. What's the expression? Shipping up to Boston. I'm shipping up to Providence in about an hour and a half, and going to Foxborough tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Yes, the great thing about a train is, well, first off, you can work the whole time, right? There's no like put your laptops away, wait for take
Not
off.
as much space on the train as there used to be, though. It's a little bit more cramped.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I don't take up a lot of space, so that's the good thing.
Okay.
But no, it was
a. Are you going to go personal hotspot, or are you going to go on the Amtrak Wi-Fi? Because the Wi-Fi is very unreliable.
I was planning the Amtrak Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you're going to be disappointed.
There's some transcribing I want to do, some company emails I want to send out, and some stories I want to write. So I got 4.5, 5 hours, and plan to make the most of it. But more importantly,
for you, a Zack Berman fever dream, a captive capsule in which to work.
More importantly, big day tomorrow. And so I like the conceit of today's show, which is kind of the show where they stand, because when we talk this time next week, things might look a little different.
Things might. Now, tell us about the schedule for tomorrow, Zack. The practice begins at 10 o'clock, 10:30?
10:30 is when practice begins. We'll speak to Nick Sirianni around 10 o'clock. We'll speak to players after practice. And so it's
and then you and I will be fresh off right to the 2 o'clock show from Foxborough.
I think they'll go for about 2 hours tomorrow. I imagine if history serves, it'll be heavy work with the ones. We probably won't see them 2 days later in the game. So I would imagine on either side of the ball.
Well, it'll be
two fields.
Typically it'll be the ones against the Patriots twos on both sides of the ball.
Yes. But I'm saying, but you'll see it's not going to be as like much of a Tanner McKee day, if you will, right? Or Sean Stevens.
I bet McKee will get some work, but yes, yeah. The
Stevens.
Real three is, yes.
Yeah. So the reason why we say that this is the most important day of the summer is it's the most work the ones will get in a competitive situation, also against a different team all summer. And Nick Sirianni has typically used the joint practices as his big barometer for the team, more so than the preseason. And they only have one this year. Typically they have 3 or 4. They only have one this season. So all the marbles are on tomorrow.
All the marbles are on tomorrow. We should use that.
Be my guest.
What do marbles make you think of?
What do marbles make me think of?
Yeah.
Like a literal marbles, Mm-hmm. I mean the small balls, the marbles. So
Okay.
What do marbles make you think of, Bo?
Major League 2.
What happened what was the marbles thing in that?
You have no marbles. It's the
okay. I see what you did there. Yeah, no, I was not thinking of that. I was thinking of
I'm not saying they make me think of testicles. I'm saying they make me think of the movie Major League 2.
Sure, I'm saying that's not how I think of marbles, but so be it.
Okay. All right, Zack, let's run around the positions here and see where everybody stands ahead of tomorrow and ahead of the preseason game. You and I have not unpacked on the show what we saw in the preseason game itself, except for the post-game show with Jamie. So I think this is an interesting and exciting way to go about it. So let's talk about the quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts obviously didn't play. I don't expect that. Do you think they're going to get one series on Thursday?
No.
Do you think they're on week 3?
No.
Okay, so you think the offense is not going to do anything all summer long?
Yeah, and it's like I don't want to say I told you so, because It's not as if like I was dealing with information. It was just kind of my speculation. I did not expect the top starters to play this.
Do you think that's so? Are you saying that Nick Sirianni was lying about the weather being the determining factor?
I don't. I mean, look, maybe he just wanted the guys to go through the pregame warmups, and like not go into the night as if they weren't going to play. But you and I have spoken about this. There's nothing in like Howie Roseman's recent past that makes me think they're putting AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, Lane Johnson out there in a preseason game. I could be wrong.
I mean, the guys played 2 years ago.
They did, and Jalen almost got his head knocked off, right? So look, maybe they go out there. I just it's the trend in the NFL. Jonathan Gannon's not playing Kyler Murray.
Oh, well, I mean, if the smartest coach in all of the land isn't playing his quarterback.
So yeah, look, we'll see if it happens, but my guess is they get extensive work against the Patriots. That will suffice for this week. Next week they're going to have like a real competitive week of practice. Like I expected them to have more days off and walkthroughs than they do. They don't. I imagine they'll be at the stadium one of those days, working on operation type things, similar to what they did last year. So my guess
Howie
is
Roseman yelling at Vic Fangio.
I don't think Howie's going to yell at Vic Fangio.
I don't think so either.
My guess, yeah, maybe Joe Panunzio, but not Vic Fangio. But my guess is that they'll be out there. The first time the fans see the Eagles' star offensive players is in Sao Paulo.
Okay. Sal Palantonio.
No, Sao Paulo.
ESPN. Okay. Kenny Pickett, Tanner McKee. Tanner McKee continues to get a little bit of work with the twos. I think we talked a little bit about this on the postgame show. I thought Kenny Pickett had an uninspiring preseason debut. I understand that he's working with lesser talent. So was Tanner McKee. I think there's reason to believe that if Kenny Pickett was called into action with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and the starting offensive line, he would comport himself fine. I think they'd have a little bit less upside, but I think it's, you could certainly do worse as a backup quarterback. But I remain intrigued with the possibility of Tanner McKee long term, and I would like to see this competition continue.
Yeah, I don't anticipate it being a competition. I
mean, it's literally a competition. He's getting reps with the twos right now.
I don't anticipate this being a competition. I think that they're seeing McKee in there. I don't think there's a way.
You won't admit that you won't call this a competition, but you also won't call the Mekhi Becton right guard situation.
I think Mekhi Becton's far ahead. I'm saying I don't think there's a scenario, barring injury, where Tanner McKee is. I'm sorry, where Kenny Pickett's not dressed on game, not in uniform on game day, week 1. Well, I guess that all 3 quarterbacks are in uniform.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
I think Tanner McKee's the designated third quarterback on game day. That's my position. I don't think there's a situation where Pickett is on the roster and he's not the number 2 quarterback going into the season. I leave open the possibility that if something were to happen to Jalen for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, that they could say, you know what, McKee has certain upside here. But I do think that Pickett goes into the season as the backup. That's why I'm saying I don't think this.
So then why do you think that Tanner McKee continues to get reps at the expense of Kenny Pickett with the team?
I think they want to give McKee work. Like I think they want to get McKee meaningful work. I think part of the appeal of Pickett is that he's played before. He's not a veteran per se, but he's started games in the league. It's not as if McKee's not getting work, but I do think it's not as if Pickett's not getting work, but I do think they want to get McKee meaningful work with the twos. Because for the reasons you mentioned, it's clear to anyone watching, developmentally, there's something intriguing here. I just think going into the season, it's going to be Pickett as the number 2.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
I do have a question for you, stemming from the game, but overall from the offense this year and from your evaluation of Pickett overall. The longest completion of the game was 11 yards. Okay, the yards per pass attempt was really low this game.
Yes.
Do you think this is A, just kind of the vanilla offense that they ran, B, the byproduct of not a great group of wide receivers, C, Kellen Moore's offensive play calling and trying to get more short and intermediate game, or D, the way the way Kenny Pickett tends to play quarterback.
A, B, and D. I think it has nothing to do
Yeah,
with
nothing
Kellen
more.
Moore's play
Okay.
calling.
Okay.
I think it has most to do with the talent around him and his play style. I think those are the two things. I don't think if he's on the field with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, he's not going to throw the ball downfield. But I also don't think that those are his best throws.
Sure. So you don't think that, because we saw in the Tim McManus story last week, Jalen Hurts wants more of a short and intermediate game in the offense. It's not something the Eagles did as frequently last year. Do you think Kellen Moore is emphasizing the short and intermediate game more? There have been practices where there weren't as many downfield plays that you did see more in the middle of the field.
Well, I think that's a separate conversation than the game.
Okay.
The game, I wouldn't take any single play call or offensive design at all from a preseason game and make any meaning of it. Do you think that is what you expect from the offense?
No, I do expect them. I think as long as Nick Sirianni's the head coach, there's going to be an emphasis on explosives, right? Bam, bam. What's the pew pew? Is that the?
That's Jonathan Gannon. Shots, explosives.
Shots, explosive.
Pew,
pew, pew. Yeah. I do think there's going to be a lot of shots and explosives.
Big I like it.
But I do anticipate there being a greater emphasis on high percentage plays this year. Like the easy completions. I think they're going to try to get some more gimmies this year than they have in the past.
What do you mean?
I mean,
like what kind of gimmies? They're like these crappy wide receiver screens?
Maybe, or
we need more of those?
Yeah, short passes to AJ, short passes to Devontae, the layups, as Nick Sirianni's called them in the past.
Yeah, I don't know if I understand what that means necessarily. I mean, a slant, I wouldn't call it a layup.
A high percentage pass. A pass where the chances of it being...
I hope we don't see more wide receiver screens. I think we saw
it's
more
not
wide
mutually
receivers.
Exclusive to wide receiver screens. I'm saying high percentage passes.
Yeah, I will believe that Jalen Hurts is willing to throw the ball over the middle of the field to intermediate levels when I see it. I believe that maybe he wanted that, but there are lots of examples of guys being open and he's not throwing them the ball. So, like, I got to see
Brown,
that.
Devontae Smith?
No. Other players being open in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I think you're going to see A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith in the middle of the field more.
Okay, I don't think there are going to be many layups where the defense is just leaving A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith open.
I mean, we're arguing over semantics here about layups. I think that the ADOT, the average depth of target,
Yes.
I can see it being lower this year.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
For those receivers. Okay, so we didn't need this 2-minute deviation.
Well, you could have said that in the beginning.
Okay. So the short and intermediate game, I agree that Friday night was not indicative of the direction they're going there, but I do think that they are going to incorporate the short and intermediate game more than they have in the past.
All right. Well, let's talk about the wide receivers then. Let's leave A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith out of it. Although I do have to say, do you agree with have we talked about this? Like the characterization that I've seen elsewhere that like Devontae Smith is having the best camp of anybody on the Eagles and he's been a star every single day and like he looks better than ever?
I agree. He looks better than ever. I agree.
I don't see that. I think he looks great. I think he looks as good as he ever has. He looks the same to me.
Yeah, I agree. He's been a star most days. Whether he's the best player in camp, it's always hard for me to make that assertion because there's, the positions are different. There's response, like Lane Johnson, for instance. I can't tell you how great a camp Lane Johnson's having. Right? I don't know, and I'm not watching that enough to tell you. I am watching the wide receivers every day, and I think that Devontae has been outstanding this camp. Yeah, I do think he's been better than previous years.
I don't know. I mean, now listen, if when they're on separate fields, I'm a football guy. I'm watching the big uglies.
Yeah.
I'm not watching wide receiver DB one-on-ones. I believe that Devontae can cook in that situation. But in team drills over the course of camp, it's not like he's been racking up big plays.
Oh, there have been about 4 or 5 days where I thought the best play that happened all day was a Devontae Smith reception.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like 4 or 5 nice plays over the course of the summer. That's not like, I'm writing a book about it.
I'm not writing a book about his summer. I'm not.
Do you have a chapter in the book on the Eagles' history of the past couple decades on the summer of Devontae Smith?
No, but I do in the epilogue. I do write that one of the challenges of this book is the time period it was written. If it was written a year later, there's an A.J. Brown chapter. If it's written 2 years later, there's probably a Devontae Smith chapter, right? It's
3 years later, there's probably a Lou Nichols chapter.
I mean, maybe a Josh Sweat chapter. Who knows? But I like that. Yeah, you want to talk to a starting edge rusher, right? I agree with that. A starting edge rusher, if you're covering the team, I think that's important to get the perspective of a starting edge rusher who they almost traded this offseason. Yes.
If Bryce Huff walked past you with a microphone, you would spit in his face and walk the other direction.
No, I would say, Boston Scott, you really got big this offseason.
Wow.
So that's actually a Lane Johnson line. Yeah, from the Chris Long podcast. So yeah, I do think Devontae has had a really good summer. As I was about to say, I wouldn't call someone crazy if they had that opinion. It's not like my big takeaway from the summer, but I wrote from a practice the other day that it's probably like you probably want a more nuanced take than Devontae Smith is awesome, but there was a practice the other day where like Devontae Smith was awesome. I thought the best play of yesterday's practice in the passing game was Jalen extending the play, finding Devontae across the middle. I thought now that was more Jalen than Devontae, but I think Devontae's been money this summer. I'm not backing down from that. He's had a really good summer.
I think he's had a really good summer each of the past 2 summers.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't see a different level. That's all. I think Devontae Smith is awesome.
You get to a point.
I think he's been awesome.
Is your Madden rating 92 or 94? Right. It's really good either way. So
okay. All right. Now beyond those guys, I think there's no doubt that the major talking point here is the continued ascension of Johnny Wilson, and I think that for the most part, as we have talked about, I think it has been more a product of what is around him than Johnny Wilson having a great camp necessarily. However, yesterday at practice, he had a very good day. A couple connections with Jalen Hurts in team drills. Nice to see that Jalen Hurts is willing to throw him the ball. There was one play where Jalen scrambled and threw it to him, and Johnny Wilson made the catch. Nice catch radius along the sideline, got both feet in. That was good to see. And then at the very end of practice, as we wrote about, there's this competitive session where Nick Sirianni first is like, give me a safety. And here comes Anaya Smith in a one-on-one from the slot, which is the easiest route to win. Like, if you have the entire field to work with you in one-on-ones, man, you better get open. And Anaya Smith was not able to fully separate from Andre Sam, and then Andre Sam breaks up the pass as it hits Anias's hands. Not a good sign for Anaya Smith, no doubt about that. And then C.J. Gardner-Johnson, as some people have reported, is yelling, that guy ain't done anything all camp. But then on the next play, last play,
analysis,
Johnny Wilson beats Quinyon Mitchell deep. Runs a fly, beats him off a line, and hauls in the catch from Will Grier. So that was, a nice thing to see from Johnny Wilson. I think you also saw in the preseason game the blocking that I think has endeared him to Nick Sirianni. Remember, it's the first thing that Nick Sirianni mentioned 2 weeks ago when he was asked about what they can do at wide receiver. So I think that I still do expect the Eagles to make a move of some kind at wide receiver, but the fact that Jalen Hurts is willing to throw him the ball, that they're giving him these reps, I don't think there's any doubt that Johnny Wilson is the leader in the clubhouse as wide receiver 3 right now.
Yeah, look, that's why sometimes you need to widen your lens, and it's a good point. Paris Campbell's injury during the past week has really hurt Campbell's chances of being the number 3 receiver. I do think the mix and match thing is relevant because I think Britton Covey's had a good camp. I thought Britton Covey continues to look good, and I can see them having a Johnny Wilson Britton Covey combination. But I still am of the opinion that they need to acquire a wide receiver. They are. I don't think you can go into the season. If you go into the season with Johnny Wilson and Britton Covey as this combination of your third and really your fifth option in the passing game, okay. If something were to happen to Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, I think those guys are not ready to kind of level up to be the number two in this offense. And I think you want a number three who can level up to be like a poor man's number two, if you will. And so that's what jumps out to me, is they still need help there. But yeah, I did not go into the summer thinking it was going to be Britton Covey and Johnny Wilson as this combined number two. Or I'm sorry, this combined number three.
Do you think Paris Campbell has the team made?
Well, I thought he did a week ago, but injuries. Look, this has been a week and a half injury now. If he's not on the field in New England, that's both preseason games. That's a 2-week injury for someone who has an injury history. It's a tough calculation to make. I thought he looked fine in the first week. I think that there's a skill set there that you can try to use, but no, I think that him making it through camp healthy was important, and missing 2 weeks is problematic.
How about Anaya Smith?
I don't see a way you can keep him on the 53 based on what I've seen. I don't mean to, I hope this isn't hyperbole. It reminds me of the Donnell Pumphrey summer, where you're watching it and you're like, this guy just doesn't have it. Again, now I thought the game might provide it. He had one catch that I thought, he showed a little bit of juice on. Fumbles the punt return. He's not getting separation. He's not creating plays with his feet. Yeah, I just don't see it. Do you?
I do not. And like the drops, that stuff you could talk yourself into. The most concerning thing is that he just doesn't look any different athletically.
Exactly.
Like it's just there's not a lot of juice there. The most bullish case you could make is that he's still hampered by the injury that he suffered in the spring, right? And that
could be, yeah.
Maybe next year he looks different athletically. That's the most positive case you could make, which is, it's not a fun thing to say. You don't want to kill a guy, but he does not look the part right now.
But I'm gonna say what I said draft weekend about Anaya Smith, and I don't want to be anchored to this opinion, but his testing numbers weren't elite. His production in college wasn't elite. Like at some point, you have enough data points here.
No, I mean I hated the profile.
Yeah, to suggest that like if you weren't an elite athlete or have this standout size, and your production wasn't such that like you're such a talented player that you're overriding it on the field, then you at least want to see him come in the camp, and you can talk yourself into maybe the system he was in, maybe the quarterback that he had, maybe the Eagles know how to use him better. That has not been the case this summer, and so yeah, I'm not ready to call it, but I'd have a hard time putting him on my 53 right now.
All right. Well, Zach, maybe that is a case that for the Eagles moving forward, when they're trying to hire wide receivers, they might need to turn to Indeed. Because we are driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates later. That's part of the appeal of Indeed. Not only are they getting you the best candidates, they're taking care of a lot of the busy work for you so you can get back to doing your actual job, because oftentimes trying to find a candidate is a job in and of itself. Indeed will leverage over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, because Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more that you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Everybody has non-negotiables. And what are your self-care non-negotiables? Maybe you never skip leg day. Maybe you never skip therapy day. When your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. That's why I want to tell you about BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. It's helpful for learning positive. When I talk about therapy, it's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/PHLY to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com. And like I said, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. This show is brought to you by BetterHelp.
All right, Zach, the tight ends, Dallas Goedert, having a fine camp, staying healthy. That's what matters. Grant Calcaterra has looked good, especially over the past week. However, suffered a shoulder injury during the preseason game against the Ravens. Did not practice yesterday because of that shoulder injury. Meanwhile, Albert Okwuegbunam suffered an abdominal injury, and he did not practice yesterday. So the Eagles a little bit short-handed at tight end now. They've got CJ Uzomah. They've got EJ Jenkins. They've got Kevin Folsch and the guy from the Commanders whose name is escaping me right now.
The guy from the Commanders whose name is escaping you right now. The guy they just signed, or they claimed off waivers from the Commanders.
Oh, so it's escaping you as well.
How could I possibly forget Armani Rodgers, the most well-dressed player?
Well-dressed Armani Rodgers.
Yeah, well-dressed player on the Eagles.
How would you handicap the race for the third tight end job right now? Because I think we agree, as long as Calcaterra gets back healthy, he's the number 2.
Yeah, so just want to give a quick update here because I did a little bit of digging yesterday on this, and Grant Calcaterra, it's not believed to be a long-term injury. He should be okay, right? But they are down on numbers. So if you see them at a tight end, I don't anticipate it being like a replacement for Calcaterra as much as it is just depth for camp. Calcaterra, I agree, is entrenched as the number 2. CJ Uzomah gives them experience. That's what, and he's really good size. Like, he's your prototypical blocking tight end. Calcaterra is not a blocking tight end. So I would give Uzomah the edge there. I saw, Jimmy Kempski had a 53 where he had the Eagles keeping 4 tight ends. And that would surprise me. I know they kept 4. I know they kept 4 tight ends in the past. He had Albert O. There's a reason why they've wanted Albert O around here. They signed him that extension pretty quickly, or they signed him to that contract.
That guy hasn't done a thing all summer.
Yeah, he hasn't done a thing all summer. He didn't do a thing last season. So based on what I see, I don't see it. But maybe if they view Grant Calcaterra almost like a big wide receiver, I don't know. But I'm underwhelmed by this tight end core. I would remind them they could probably still trade for Donald Parham if they wanted to. But
I also don't think you need Uzomah as a week 1 roster guy.
No, because then
I'd be more considering just going with 2 guys week 1, and then you fill it out based on the waiver wire.
I think they like 3 on game day, but you can elevate 1, right, from practice squad.
Yeah, I mean, just for the cut down. I'm not sure I see that they need to have a third tight end on the roster.
Well, that's why you're the king of the beats.
Well, we'll find out about that. And unfortunately, I do think that EJ Jenkins has taken a little bit of a dip lately. Had a drop in the game. But I think there's still some potential there for EJ Jenkins. Now, Chris Manera, a super chat, says it's his 29th birthday today, and all he wants is Mike McMahon on the pod, the mobile Joe Montana. Mike McMahon, go Birds, says Chris. Happy birthday, Chris. 29. Feeling fine.
Chris, I'm just saying we have the Ospreys coming up. Be careful of what you request for Bo because he has made things happen. There is a sheriff I didn't even know about who made it a cameo. I still don't know much about him, but he made a cameo. So be careful with Bo.
All right, running backs, Zach. Saquon, you got him. Shipley, Gainwell, those three guys are all set. Do you think the Eagles consider keeping a fourth?
Well, your boy Lou Nichols has looked good. And Nick Sirianni gave him the shout out the other day.
Yeah, baby.
I tend to lean toward no, unless there's a player who you like so much, you want to keep him around because you're afraid someone else is going to claim him. But with the way you use running backs, with the amount of volume I expect Saquon to have, I think 3 is the number they go with. I tend to kind of think like Howie Roseman in the sense that and Howie hasn't he hasn't done this as much in recent years, but I'd rather go with greater numbers at bigger positions, O-line, D-line, which actually Howie hasn't done that the past few years. But that's
they've kept
the way I like to think.
4 running backs consistently the past few years.
Yeah, but I'm saying with Saquon, I don't know if that's the direction they need to go.
Yeah.
But Lou Nichols has played well.
I think if they keep a fourth, it's more about when you've got those last couple roster spots, who's the best player. Like I think you could argue that Lou Nichols and or Tyrion Davis-Price is just a better, more roster-worthy player than CJ Uzomah at this point or Alberto.
And I mean, you need a certain number of guys inactive each week, right? So I hear what you're saying. Just take the most rosterable players. You want guys who aren't vested veterans because you don't expose them to waivers. Do you think Lou Nichols has earned a spot on the 53? Do you think he's one of the 53 best players on the team?
I think it's close. I think we got to see how the next 2 weeks play out, but I think it's close. I do. Especially because I actually think they're going to be right now. If you were to break it down, they're a little bit lighter on offense numbers wise than on defense. So I think you could make a case that he's one of the 24, 25 most roster worthy players on offense. All right, offensive line, Zach, Mekhi Becton once again with the ones yesterday. Now Tyler Steen and Jalen Carter had a little bit of a beef yesterday during one-on-ones. Carter was sort of chirping at Steen. It was kind of nice to see Steen going back at him a little bit. Connor Barwin had to sort of break it up as they were going from one field to another, but it was still, Carter sort of smacked Barwin's hand away. Then they're jawing as they walk to the practice field, and then they're in the middle of the field, just the two of them all alone. And Jalen Carter points Tyler Steen towards the sideline. I was like dumbfounded that this didn't escalate even more to like actual pushing and shoving. So I guess good on both of them there. But do you
while you talk about the Steen Becton situation, I'm gonna jump out and jump right back on because my audio has a little bit of an echo. So I'm gonna be back on in 30 seconds. But I think the Becton Steen conversation is important right now because you do think there's separation there.
Go ahead. Yes, while Zach is gone, PHLY can officially report that Mekhi Becton is the starting right guard for the Eagles. As I have said for a week, if you watch Jeff Stoutland, if you've followed Jeff Stoutland for a decade, you know that he's not messing around with those reps. It's done. Now, here's what I would say. I think Tyler Steen has looked pretty good when he's practiced. I think that he had a good game the other night. Yesterday, I thought he had a good practice. Now, maybe he's a little bit banged up. I don't think there's any reason to believe that Tyler Steen is like some bust. I think he's looked pretty good, and I think he could be fine if called into action. But for whatever reason, Jeff Stoutland wants Mekhi Becton to be the guy at right guard. It certainly gives you a different body type, and I think that the writing is not on the wall. The writing has already started decaying off the wall because it's been on there for so long.
Yeah, so I am of the opinion now that, well, I've been of this opinion that Mekhi Becton's the clear favorite for this. I think that
be hemming and hawing.
I've not been hemming and hawing. I wasn't ready.
I've never seen someone hem and haw so much.
I wasn't ready.
Mr. Hemmen and Hawn over here.
Okay. I wasn't
Zach
ready to
Birmingham
call.
home.
I wasn't ready to call it on August 5th, August 8th. Okay. But
Now, Mike Garafolo, your boy, reporting that Hassan Reddick has requested a trade from the Jets.
Wow. I wonder if they get more than they gave up.
Do you think the Eagles are interested?
No, but that would be the funniest trade that could happen. that would be like the Bruce Hector trade on steroids, right? It's like, yeah, we'll give you a 6th for him, Yeah, I am mystified by Joe Douglas's by what the Jets did here. Like the Eagles weren't just giving him away. It's not as if they didn't think he wasn't good. Yeah, that's
day one GM stuff. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
A super chat from Andrew says that while you were gone, Zach, so close your ears. What defunct random weirdo politician are we getting for the Ospreys this year? Obviously, I can't give that away, but I did notice that Rod Blagojevich is on Cameo.
I saw Jake Tapper, a noted Eagles fan. He did the series on scandals, and that was one of the interviews he did. I did not know much about that story before Jake Tapper's. I mean, I knew of it vaguely, just by the headlines, but this was a good piece that Jake did. Yeah, Mekhi Becton is, unless there's injury, which is always the possibility of injury, I don't think this is going to be performance-based. I don't think Steen can do anything performance-wise for this to change. I just think Becton has an injury history. If he were to miss time and Steen goes in and they don't want to keep seesawing in and out, but I don't think Steen's distinguished himself enough. Now, he did look labored on the field the other night. He did look like he was still recovering from the injury.
And you will know, so please correct me, but I don't remember who he said it to, but he said something in post-game locker room about how, like, if he's fighting for a job, he needs to play through something. Like, he acknowledged that he was playing through something.
That's interesting. I did not see that.
You missed one. Wow.
Yeah, did not see that. Shoot, I gotta go back and see who he said that to. Maybe EJ.
Yeah. There goes your.
But because you're telling me,
there goes your train ride. Yeah.
No, I got a lot of writing I got to do on the train.
Okay. Here's the thing that is actually starting to get on my radar now. Is, well, I mean, Steen continues to take reps as the second team right guard, but the guy who they have to be most prepared for to lose is Lane Johnson, right? And Darian Kennard continues to take all the second team right tackle reps. I would expect at some point we got to see Steen taking reps at right tackle.
It's a really good point. I am going to, you know what? I'm going to ask Nick that tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point. Unless you want to ask Nick that tomorrow, but I'm going to ask Nick that tomorrow because that's a really good point.
I need to ask Nick a more important question. I need to know whether the weather on Thursday night in New England is going to affect his decision to play the starters.
You are so offended by that. It's true. Okay. All right. Yeah. So, no, that's a really good point because when they signed Becton, we thought Becton was the swing tackle, and we said that's an important role for this team because.
Or Fred Johnson. Fred Johnson has spent all his time on the left. I think he can play the right side, but at some point he's got to get. You want to see him get those reps.
That's a good point.
So I think of the let's say Becton's the starter. That's 5. Okay. Steen's going to be on the team. That's 6. I think Fred Johnson is going to be on the team. That's 7. I think Trevor Keegan
Toth on the team.
I'll get there.
Okay.
I think Trevor Keegan is a lock. That's 8. I think Dylan McMahon is a lock to make the roster, which would be 9. And then I think there's one more spot, and so it's probably between at least one more spot, maybe 2, but I think it's probably between Toth and Kennard. I mean, I guess Matt Hennessy is just not a stout guy. He continues to only work with the 3s and not at center. I mean, it's hard not to trust the snaps and the reps that Toth is getting, but it's also hard to believe that they would give him a roster spot considering what the league has said about him. But I think Toth has had a good summer.
Yeah, and I asked Cam Jurgens about Toth yesterday, and the thing he emphasized is that he can play all 5 positions, right? So they really don't have a backup who you can say that about. Now, there's not a lot of offensive linemen in the league who you can say that about. Usually, if a guy can play 3 positions or even 4 positions, like tackle and guard, that's real valuable. But Toth, who started playing center last year, was not as good at it. Is better this year. We've seen him play tackle. We've seen him play guard. The ability to play 5 positions, maybe they say, given the fact that there are moving parts on the offensive line, that's valuable. That could be a valuable game day role for you. So
yeah,
I can see it based on that.
And I will say Toth, he's a bigger body, but
Yeah.
the thing that we saw the last couple summers when he was at center, like real snapping trouble, like practice ruining snapping trouble, that has not been a factor at all this summer. So whenever we get a chance to talk to Toth, we should ask him about what he has done to correct that.
Good point.
All right, let's talk defensive line, Zach, before we get to our next ad reads. Let's talk defensive tackles first.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you've got your top 3 guys. Now, Vic Fangio said something yesterday about how you want at least 5 active on game day, right? And I think he mentioned even potentially up to 7 on the roster in his last press conference. Ojimo on the team, I believe.
Yes.
That's 4. Then you're talking Tui Pelotu, and I thought it was interesting reading between when you asked Vic Fangio about the backup nose tackle yesterday. He mentioned Milton.
I didn't expect that.
And did not mention Marlon, which I thought was interesting. You've also got Thomas Booker in the mix. Below those guys, I think PJ Mustipher and Gabe Hall are probably on the outside of the bubble at the moment. I think there's a real chance that Thomas Booker can make this team, though.
Yeah, now, you would have 2 backups who are on the smaller side, right? But if you believe that Milton Williams can play nose tackle, which surprised me, or
I think it surprised Milton too. He was asked about it. Yeah. He was like, I guess I could play there.
Do you think there's any way he met Marlon and he said Milton? But he said Milt.
No, I think he meant Milton.
Yeah,
but
interesting. Yeah, that caught me off guard. Gotta say, it was a great question.
Yeah, you really nailed that one.
Hey, a good question gets a good answer, right?
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't ask him about the kickoffs.
Ouch. You're really holding on to that Sirianni press conference last week. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. Look, everyone in the league's talking about the kickoffs right now.
Yeah.
There's a
most
palpable
boring
buzz.
Conversation.
There's a palpable buzz about kickoffs. Ben Van Sumeren is even talking about kickoffs.
Good.
He probably
Malachi Corley is all about.
Yeah.
All about the kickoff.
Yeah. No. I look. Howie Roseman said the other night. I'm sorry. He said the opening press conference, but I believe in his interview with Dave Sparrow the other night mentioned like the importance of young guys playing, and it's often in relation to the defensive tackles. So I don't know if they're going to go out and like try to get a veteran defensive lineman. And I keep emphasizing backup nose here. Maybe they feel like that's a spot you can elevate on game day if you need to.
Yeah, potentially so. And again, this is all wrapped up in the same conversation about how many snaps those guys going to play. If you're leaning on Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis more, then maybe you don't need quite as many bodies inside. All right. Well, fall is coming up, which is football season, but it's also allergy season. Fall allergies, Zach, can begin as early as August and last into November. The main culprits, the dreaded ragweed and mold. Tough combination, ragweed and mold. Don't want to see those guys standing across the line. Other allergens include plants such as sagebrush, tumbleweed, and pigweed. Pigweed. You don't hear a lot about pigweed these days. Pigweed's a good nickname for a guy who's annoying you, I feel like. It's being a real pigweed. Then you got your dust mites, your pet dander, and fur. I mean, that's a lot of stuff to worry about. The good news is you don't have to worry about it quite so much if you were hooked up with Rite Aid. You can sign up for Rite Aid rewards, emails at riteaid.com/rewards to receive email pollen alerts for your area. Some other things you can do, and these are some suggestions from the good folks at Rite Aid. Use a dehumidifier. Dust mites and mold thrive in humid environments. A dehumidifier helps take the moisture out of the air so that those allergens can't grow. Make sure you're showering frequently. It's training camp. Zach, you and I, when it's practice time, we're on multi-showered a day schedules. That's good. But, once training camp stops, you got to make sure you keep that up. Check your pollen counts. Keep your windows closed and use an air conditioner, and wear a protective mask when gardening, because allergens like to hang out in leaves and moist soil. You should wear a protective mask when you tend to your yard or garden. Wearing long sleeves and gardening gloves can protect you from the elements as well. There's also some over-the-counter options at Rite Aid. You can try a nasal rinse to help flush out your nasal passages. When symptoms are flaring up or you know that pollen counts are high, try some antihistamines such as loratadine, which is available in Rite Aid brand or brand name Claritin, and cetirizine, available in Rite Aid brand or brand name. That's your Zyrtec right there. 1 to 2 weeks before pollen allergies are expected to be high, try some nasal corticosteroids like fluticasone, which is available in the Rite Aid brand or the brand name. You know this one, Zach? That's Flonase. And then I'll test you one more time. You have your triamcinolone, which, again, available in the Rite Aid brand, or, you got to guess? Nasacort. Nasacort is what we were going for. Nasacort. That's what you got. Rite Aid has you covered for your fall allergy season. If you still are not getting enough relief, ask a Rite Aid pharmacist if a different type of allergy medication like a decongestant might be necessary. You can always ask your Rite Aid pharmacist for recommendations on ways to get relief during allergy season. Rite Aid hooking you up. Over to you, ZB.
Yeah, you never want to be ordinary. And whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide. They have live streams with 700. They live stream 780,000 events each year. Early payout offers across NBA, NFL, NHL, and MLB. Bet365 pioneered live in-game betting today. Bet365 offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. You want to open an account at Bet365 where they don't do ordinary. They believe every sport should be epic. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Use the code PHLY365 to sign up. Deposit $10 and claim your offer. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. They also have SGP Plus, which allows you, the same game parlay plus, which allows you to combine most popular markets from selected events across different sports into one big parlay price. You must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER, and that's Bet365.
Nolan Smith straight up for Hassan Reddick, who says no.
I mean, the Eagles, because you got to pay Hassan Reddick. If Hassan Reddick's like, I'll play under this deal for you, then I mean, I think the Eagles would take that right now.
Okay. Unlikely. All right. Speaking of Nolan Smith, we move on to the edge. I don't know if there's a ton bubble wise, although I do think that Patrick Johnson could make this team as a special teams standout, and there was a nice pass rush that he had, obviously, to close out the game against the Ravens. But you've got Sweat, Huff, Graham, Nolan Smith, Jalex Hunt. Those guys are all on the team. I think we talked about Jalex Hunt had a nice little pop in the game. But are you thinking anything bubble wise there? Do you think Julian Okwara could make the team? Could Terrell Lewis make the team, or is this pretty cut and dry?
Yeah, I think this is pretty cut and dry. I liked Okwara early in camp. I don't think he's done enough recently. Patrick Johnson is the one guy I would mention. I think Patrick Johnson, who was dealing with a bit of an injury, I think he's had a good camp. He had that big sack the other day. They've kept him around here for 3 years. But I don't know if you're pushing to get him on the roster, but I do think he's had a good summer. The key here is Jalex Hunt's been better than I expected. I thought it was going to be a redshirt year for Jalex Hunt. I don't believe that to be the case. I mean, I think you can expect him to give you some snaps this season.
Where do you stand on Nolan Smith at the moment?
I think, look, I need to see it in games. I think the thing that you're going to get, the baseline for Nolan Smith is like a try-hard player, is someone who is he's hustling, he's not taking plays off.
It's a real thing. He brings that to the table, no doubt.
Now, they need the ceiling to be higher. First-round pick with that type of upside, you picked him based on the ceiling, not the floor, right? And so it can't just be try hard player. But I do look at this and say that I don't know if he's had like the standout summer. Although Chris Long said the other day on his podcast that they're impressed by what they've seen from him.
Vic Fangio also, to be fair, poo-pooed the sack that he had as, it was an unexpected rush and the tackle didn't see him coming. So just worth
Those
noting.
do happen in games though sometimes.
But not against undrafted rookies.
That true too. Yes.
Okay. Linebacker, Zach, Vic Fangio, I asked him about Zack Baun yesterday. Given that Baun did not play a ton of ILB, as Fangio calls it, in New Orleans, what was it that he saw on tape to make him think he would have the instincts to play that position? He said, there were a handful of times where he saw something. He's had a good camp. He did not have a good start to the game on Thursday, or was it Friday? Friday against the Ravens. But then sort of settled in a little bit. Where do you think things stand there? And do you believe that Jeremiah Trotter Jr. can push for defensive playing time early in the season?
Not early in the season, but I think eventually. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Jeremiah Trotter's in contention to start week 1. I think Jeremiah Trotter's in contention to start week 11. That's the way I would frame it. But
I think he's. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that, but
you think he's in contention to start week 1?
Well, I think there's a big gap between 1 and 11. I think if Zack Baun's not good week 1 and 2, then Trotter's in contention to start week 3.
I was using 1 and 11 for effect. Okay, I wasn't being literal. My point is,
but that's real. I think I think he might be the next man up.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's outplayed Nakobe for sure. I need to
Somebody needs to get to Rite Aid.
I need to go to Rite Aid. Sure. Yeah, I think that Devin White's the clear number 1 linebacker right now, and I think after that, Zack Baun.
You look like another one coming. There it is.
Yeah. Sorry, it's hard to do that on live. On a live show, you don't have. I could put it on mute. I don't love the linebackers right now, but I'm impressed by Trotter. Trotter's the player who I thought he was.
Do you think that they will carry 5? Bless you.
Thank you.
Does Ben Van Sumeren have a shot?
Yeah, from a special teams perspective, I do think he has a shot. It's why I ask about kickoffs. I want to see the direction they're going with kickoffs. I don't have a good barometer on what they'll do about kickoffs right now.
You look like you got another one coming.
I do. I'm trying to rally through this.
Your eyes are fighting it.
Yeah, I don't think it's good podcasting to sneeze 4 times.
Can you confirm or deny that Oren Burks is alive?
Oh, I can definitely confirm. I saw him in the locker room the other night.
Okay.
Just because a player's hurt doesn't mean they're dead. Goodness.
Well, just because you saw him the other night doesn't mean he's still alive.
I don't know if that's the point you should be taking, right? That I can't confirm his vitality. Yeah, I saw him. I like Oren. Nice guy.
Okay. Super chat from Jack, who says, the question here is about the trade conditions, Zach. So if the Jets do find a partner for Hassan Reddick, what happens to the Eagles' trade conditions?
Great question, Jack.
I believe that they carry over. I believe that's how that works.
Yeah, one would think, but I don't think the conditions were made for Hassan Reddick being traded elsewhere.
Are you really fighting this sneeze?
Yeah, but I'm okay.
Get it out, man.
Let's keep rolling. No, let's keep rolling. I'm good.
You're gonna hurt yourself.
I'm a pro.
Pro sneeze.
No, they wait for commercial breaks.
Well, we don't have those.
I know. Let's keep rolling here. We got 6 minutes to go. We're almost there.
Cornerback, Zach. Now this is an interesting one. Okay, I want to know what you think about the possibility of Quinyon Mitchell challenging to start week 1, because Vic Fangio was asked about this yesterday and said that ideally you would not have him cross training, once the season starts between nickel and corner. It's impressive that he has been able to do it. We saw actually in the preseason game that he was ahead of Kelee Ringo on the outside, got the start in base, and then moved inside. I believe, as much as I have said that, the barometer for Quinyon Mitchell is for next season, right? And this is a developmental position. I think there is a real chance that he wins that job for week one. How do you see things playing out, and how do you view things at the moment?
I can see a scenario in which Quinyon Mitchell is the starter in base on the outside and plays nickel. I think in nickel, which you're in the majority of the time, or dime, or any sub package, Quinyon Mitchell is going to be playing on the inside. For the reasons Vic Fangio said yesterday, that's how they get their best combination out there. Isaiah Rodgers or Kelee Ringo have not played on the inside this summer, so the Eagles aren't looking at them on the inside. I think that their best three at this point is Slay, either Ringo or Rodgers. I like Ringo more than Rodgers, but they are starting each day with Rodgers out there, and then Quinyon Mitchell on the inside. But in a base situation, I think Mitchell has shown the capacity to play both and the ability to play both.
Now, we do have to say, Cooper DeJean yesterday, working on the side field, running on a side field. That's the first time I believe that we have seen that this summer. My expectations are that probably after the game on Thursday, the next time the Eagles return to practice that following week, I think that's when they will begin to ramp Cooper DeJean up. I think we will see him this summer. This is not going to be a PUP into week one situation, and I think it's going to be fascinating. I think it's going to be, where do they play him? How does he look? And is there a possibility that they could even, shotgun it straight to Quinyon Mitchell on the outside, Cooper DeJean in nickel week one? I think that would be, maybe aggressive considering how much time he's missed, but I'm curious to see where they view him at the moment.
Kicker returner as one of the spots, I would imagine, in the new kickoff. Yes. Way to no sell that. The Cooper DeJean of this all is important to monitor. I thought going into the summer previous to the injury that it was going to be Quinyon starting on the outside, Cooper DeJean starting in slot. Perhaps they get to that point. I don't think week one is where it happens. Although I got to tell you, I really like the way Kelee Ringo has played this summer. He doesn't make plays on the ball as much, but he is tight in coverage. I
don't think he gets beat deep.
That's what I'm saying.
When he gets beat, it's in front of him.
Yeah, I haven't seen the tight hips were the question during the draft process. I haven't seen that as much this summer.
They call that the chubs.
Excuse me?
It's all in the hips.
That went way over my head.
Wow. Okay. Super chat from Andrew says, is it Bo Wulf or Wolf Bo? And he spells the name wrong. So
I think he was referring to Wolf Blitzer. That's why he went W.
You think he was referring to Wolf Blitzer? Interesting.
As the first name. Do you know anyone whose first name is WULF?
No, but that's not.
But do you know anyone whose first name
of the thing is? That's not.
Do you know anyone whose first name is WOLF? Yes, and that man is Wolf Blitzer. Okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't work. That's not That's not how it works.
Okay. We gotta get the safeties. I got a train to catch. I gotta get to 30th Street. I gotta pack the bag.
Hold on. Yeah. You haven't packed your bag yet?
I mean, I haven't closed it. Yeah.
Wow.
I got the suit jacket in there. If you close it too early, it gets wrinkled.
Yeah, that hour is gonna make a big difference on your 6-hour train ride.
Okay. Proceed.
I'm not done at corner yet.
Oh, okay.
Josh Jobe, Eli Ricks. Do you think those guys stand a chance? Eli Ricks, we should say, at yesterday's practice, made a very nice play on A.J. Brown in the end zone on a gotta have it, like last play of the game, touchdown wins it situation, forced A.J. Brown out. I thought he had a good day the other night as well. So, I don't know. I think he is a player who is too good to cut, probably.
I agree. I still think a trade possibility for him, but I think that's one of those cases where you go deeper on the 53, and then maybe there's an injury in a week or something. But I think that I think there's too much upside there. A young corner. The Eagles haven't had a lot of those recently. I would not move on from Eli Ricks personally.
Okay. Make sure, by the way, that you are subscribing and liking the video and all that good stuff on YouTube. Let's close out, Zach, with safety. We didn't even talk about Avonte Maddox in the corner discussion. I think that's a possibility still that he could be playing nickel week 1. But with C.J. Gardner-Johnson still out, it has been Reed Blankenship, Avonte Maddox, James Bradbury rotating there. Do you feel like the Bradbury possibility of making this roster is greater than it was 2 weeks ago?
I do. I did not have him on my 53 going into the summer. If I did a 53 tomorrow, which maybe I'll do, I would have Bradbury on it right now. I think that he's played decently. I think safety depth is important. I think the interchangeability of the different players is something that matters there. Unless they trade James Bradbury, there's no financial incentive to cutting him, like we've mentioned. And I think from a football perspective, it makes sense to have him there, right? Something happened, like C.J. Gardner-Johnson's injured right now with an injury that, now I understand the pectoral and the shoulder is not the same, but it's the same area, right? And so we don't know if these injuries are related, but this is the type of thing that you need safety depth. And Cooper DeJean, it's more theoretical at this point. It's Maddox and James Bradbury. I don't think Andre Sam or Tristan McCollum are going to be on the team.
McCollum has been playing well, for the record.
Yeah, I like Tristan and Zion, both of them I like, but I think that
I actually think Andre Sam has played well too, for the record.
I thought he was a strong candidate for the Camp Crush.
He's a good player.
Yeah.
I think he's got a shot. What about Sidney Brown?
I see him out there doing the reps on air, so to speak. I think that unless you know he can contribute week 1, it behooves you to keep him, to not bring him back to practice, keep him on PUP for those first 4 weeks, have him return to practice week 3 or so, and then get him out there. After that, there's going to be roster spots thereafter. But I would go with Bradbury and Maddox early on as your backups.
All right. Well, good overview as we prepare for tomorrow, what Zach is calling the most important day of the summer.
Yes. Looking forward. I will be in Providence, Rhode Island, and looking forward to being in Foxborough tomorrow, 10 a.m. for Nick Sirianni, 10:30 for practice.
You like a Providence?
Yeah, I don't dislike a Providence. I like Boston more, for full disclosure. I mean, I hope I'm not offending anyone in Rhode Island on that. But logistically, to get to Foxborough, if I was going, I tend to go to Boston. I stay in Boston if they have a game. If you're going up there and you just need to go to Foxborough once. If you're going to Foxborough twice, then you factor in, all right, what's the logistically the best scenario?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Do you like a Providence?
I don't dislike a Providence. Haven't spent much time in Providence since college.
I want to hear that story.
Girlfriend from Rhode Island.
Ooh, we'll get to that tomorrow's show. I will ask you. I might stop by a college campus though when I'm up there.
No surprise.
Shout out to Jake, my buddy who works at Brown, and I might want to see their football facilities or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Anytime you can be around a football facility, it's a good day. I'm trying to I'm waiting on the SEC schedule to try to see if I can get to the LSU UCLA game when I'm down in New Orleans this year. I'm like eagerly anticipating that. I want to land in New Orleans, drive an hour to LSU and see a game there.
I think that would be fun for you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Zach, get that sneeze out. I know you got one. Enjoy the ride. We will talk to you tomorrow. I'll see you bright and early at Gillette Stadium. And for all of us here at PHLY, we'll talk to you tomorrow at 2:00, the most important day of the summer. But that's just because it's the next day. That's how we approach things here at PHLY. Thanks to everybody for listening and watching. We will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks to Andrew for running things behind the scenes. And as always, we love you.